Kojima. I really believed in you. You had me believing this was gonna be the game of the year, but then I sat through this game for 38 hours, and the best thing I can compare it to is watching a bear hibernate. You expect something to happen eventually, and then it just turns over on its other side. I've seen a few reviews regarding Death Stranding, and the reception is of course mixed. But one thing that I've seen in practically all of the reviews is the statement, "This game is not for everybody," or something on the lines of that. And honestly bro, they're all wrong. It's not anyone's game, if you can even call it a game. It's an experience with little combat, lots of tediousness, practically no gameplay, and a confusing yet beautifully done story. I came into this not expecting much from the gameplay, but much more than what was actually given. I came into this with the idea that the story was going to be amazing. I came into this thinking the acting would be flawless. I came into this expecting much more overall. And once the final credits rolled, I was excited. Not because of the ending, not for the hopes of a sequel, but because I was done with the game. I no longer had to trek thousands of meters just to end up breaking my fucking package at the destination. I was glad I didn't have to deal with the occasional BT run-in just to run away without taking any damage, and I didn't have to expect any more shit plot twist. I was done. But the one thing I will give Death Stranding credit for is its story, and some of its characters. I'm able to separate the gameplay and the story and rate the two individually, and the story was amazing, but like everything, it had its flaws. Norman Reedus wasn't nearly as good as I thought he would be. It seemed he only had two emotions during the entire game, mad and sad. There are moments where Sam, Reedus' character, tries to be inspirational, and he's saying the right words, but his tone isn't conveying what those words actually mean, making what he's saying almost meaningless. But there were two people who were fucking phenomenal in the portrayal of their characters, and that's Higgs, played by Troy Baker, and Clifford Unger, played by Mads Mikkelsen. From Higgs' maniacal yet entertaining manner that makes you like him even though he's a villain, to Clifford's heart-wrenching yet angering actions, these two stole the show from everyone else, and I don't think their characters would have worked if anyone else had taken the roles. Each character has something going on with them that is either an internal issue or an external one, and Kojima showcases this amazingly, giving each person their time to shine. With some cutscenes crossing the 30-minute line, there's just no way there wouldn't be a sufficient amount of character building. But with that also comes some shitty filler dialogue which just made me cringe. Specifically the one-liners characters had, especially Fragile's. I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile. You're a person, not a fucking piece of glass. Shut up. The overarching story is more simple than the gameplay and trailers make it seem though. It's initially about rebuilding America by connecting people to the chiral network, which is just a super advanced version of Wi-Fi, and as the game goes on, it becomes more about saving the America you've just rebuilt and the entire human race from mass extinction. Maybe the premise wasn't as good as I'm thinking it was. Kojima almost delivers perfectly with this, but then the game just drags on for too long. Hey bro, there's some spoilers coming up, you know, if you want to avoid it, just click to the time. There's a point about 30 hours in where the only good boss fight takes place, and it's quite the spectacle. It starts all the way up here and slowly makes its way down to a bare knuckle brawl, and man, that shit pulled on the heartstrings like no other. This fight was what I thought the entire game would be. This one part gave me hope about the future of Kojima Productions. If Kojima can somehow harness the way this fight made me feel and put it into the entirety of future games, I legitimately believe he'll be able to redeem himself. Now enough riding this nigga's dick. Let's shit on this game. Do you see this? This is the most interesting part of the game. Then there's these boring ass third-person shooter segments. The enemies just continue to walk towards you no matter how many bullets you put in them. And during these parts, I was carrying a shit ton of cargo, making it impossible to hide. And to make it even more frustrating, there's no fucking cover system! This is a game where the only objective is walking. And somehow, the shooting segments were the worst part. Occasionally, you'll get grabbed by these black goop motherfuckers and a boss fight will start. There's two outcomes to this: win or run. Because no matter how unprepared you are, these bosses just cannot kill you. If you didn't come out on the journey prepared to fight, you can't win, so all you can do is run. And when you beat a boss, there's no sense of achievement because there are only 4 variations to the boss models. Now, I know I've talked about everything besides the obvious at this point, so I guess we can get into it now. Why the fuck is the music so inconsistent when walking? Why is nobody talking about this? This nigga gave us a sick ass soundtrack, and every time a song started, it would immediately stop due to you entering a fucking BT area. I even tried to play the soundtrack through Spotify on my PlayStation, but guess what? You can't. The game literally doesn't allow you to use the in-house music player. This was probably the most frustrating part of the game because you're walking around for 20 plus hours in silence with the occasional holler from your BB due to you falling face first. The only exciting thing about the gameplay is the fact that you can use your shit and piss as a weapon. Death Stranding just isn't a game that you're supposed to play. Death Stranding is a game you're intended to watch. Everybody that I've talked to that have watched the game and not played it have enjoyed it, but everybody that I've talked to that have played the game have legitimately disliked it. And I completely understand that because I am one of those people. If you plan on buying this game, just don't. It's not worth the money. You're better off just watching the cutscenes of the game, not even a playthrough, but just the cutscenes. That's the only way you'll be able to enjoy Death Stranding. So let's come to a final verdict on Death Stranding. We have a great story that dwindles off due to its length, subpar gameplay, lack of atmospheric music during the game, a crying baby, and Norman Reedus spraying monster in my face. 5 out of 10.